Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now speaks of some of the things that He gives us, that everything that's given to us, it can be taken in sort of two different ways. Over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an example, and He says, هُوَ الَّذِي يُرِيكُمُ الْبَرْقَ خَوْفًا وَطَمَعًا. He's the one that shows you lightning as a means of hope and as a means of fear. The same exact lightning that goes during the storm clouds. For some of us, like let's say especially in that time, if you're going on a journey, you're in a caravan, as soon as you hear lightning, you're like, oh no, my travel is going to get very hard right now. It's going to get very tough because we're going to have to go through rain. And obviously it's tougher than just going through when there is no rain. But for the one who's in his locality, he's like, oh yes, we get to get rain. Especially in the farmlands of Medina, where they need that rain. They're hoping for that thunder to come, and he's breathing his hope that rain will come soon. So the same way, every single thing in this life, whether it be something that we enjoy like wealth or something that we don't enjoy in poverty, all of those can be used as a means of hope and as a means of fear. That it can help us or it cannot, depending on our faith and perception of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sahaba would see a sickness as something good, that I get my sins forgiven. Some people will see sickness as something bad. They'll be like, oh no, I'm sick, I can't do X, Y, and Z. So every single thing in that, we should see it in that light, that whether it's money, the same for example, water, it's the means of life. We need to drink water, and if we don't, we'll pass away. And we need to constantly refresh our body with water. But that same water was used to destroy the army of Fir'aun. So what's used to give life to many can also be used as a means of destructions for others, depending on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for it. So these are all different creations that only obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have the choice. Everything else only obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيُنْشِئُ السَّحَابَ الثِّقَالِ. And also when these lightnings they come, it brings forth these heavy clouds. And this also a misunderstanding that a lot of people used to have. They used to think that clouds were very light. I mean, you see it just flying like a balloon. The wind pushes it this way, the wind pushes it that way. But over here, the Quran lets us know, and now, much earlier, but scientists started to understand that how much volume of water is within these clouds. They're actually very heavy. But they just, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set the cycle to be, that it can be pushed around like a balloon for people to take benefit all across the land. So this is also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaching us that science within it as well. Now at the same time, وَيُرْسِلُ الصَّوَاقَ وَيُسَبِّحُ الرَّعْدُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ مِنْ خِيفَتِهِ. The things that bring us hope or bring us fear, they can destroy us. Somebody struck by lightning, that we'll discuss in a little bit as well too, it can completely destroy him. Some people live through it, but it's a very hot flame of electricity that can hurt them. But these things, some scholars say it's the malaika that's in charge of these, that praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and glorify Him. And others, they say the lightning itself, just like every inanimate object, whether it be an animal, a rock, whatever it may be, they all praise and glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until the tree is cut or until the animal is hunted. These things praise and glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they know who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. It is only us that's given us the choice, that we're given the choice, that many human beings and many jinn kind, they choose not to glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Instead, they look at the system and say, okay, well, if the clouds form this way, and then the lightning hits when positive ions come together and look for a negative, and all these different things, they're looking at it from a scientific point of view. They say that's enough of an explanation for us. Where did it come from? How was this created? That doesn't matter. It's just now I know the science behind it. But as a Muslim, we say these things praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and these things, whether it be the oceans, the mountains, the stars, everything else, they can destroy us. Why would we not praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being so weak and dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? وَيُرْسِلُ الصَّوَاقَ فَيُصِيبُ بِهَا مَن يَشَاءُ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the lightning and He can hit whoever He wills with it. And this is, a lot of scholars, they give this interpretation that there was a person at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that would make fun of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent his messenger to him to talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to him. So he would say, well, let me ask you a question. Is your God made out of gold or is He made out of silver? And there's other people that would say these kinds of things as well. And ultimately, this specific person was struck by lightning. And the Prophet ﷺ was informed by Jibreel alayhi salam that that was done so. But even towards the end of time, the Prophet ﷺ says in the hadith that people getting struck by lightning will become so common that they'll come up in the morning and they'll be, oh hey, guess what? So-and-so got struck by lightning. It's a common thing. Because it is still something that can punish us If we go away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards the end of time, many people will go away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while all this is occurring, while this cycle is occurring, what's the people who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doing? وَهُمْ يُجَادِلُونَ فِي اللَّهِ. They're arguing about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like this individual at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَهُوَ شَدِيدُ الْمِحَالِ. And he's very strict and harsh when he grabs something. So there's no room to play around with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can joke about life, we can joke about this and that, but when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are things that we should be taking very seriously. When it comes to our salah, very seriously. When it comes to our Quran, everything that has to do with our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no joking about it. There's no I'll do it later. When it comes, we're here specifically for that reason, because we take Salat al-Isha very seriously. But this should be something that we should have concern for every single individual on this earth. The 8 billion people, 9 billion, however many it is, every single person should be in our hearts that how could they take Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name seriously. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for all of us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for all of our shortcomings.